Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I'm the Grace Strega, and I'm here to give you your daily collective read for today, Friday, August 9th, 2024. Can I please have the first 5 cards in our 5-card spread? First card we are starting our day off with today is I'm not surprised. We're just getting all retrograde cards this week. Yesterday we started, I believe, with the 7 of Swords, which I told you is like my retrograde card. And now we've got here the 8 of Wands in its reversal. So, guys, it's a retrograde. I'm just going to say this. Don't internalize an external problem. Don't internalize an external problem. Recognize the difference between an external problem and an internal problem. So we see this often. We see this often during these retrograde periods. We feel the slowdown. We feel the clumsiness. We feel that those little hiccups, right? That sometimes feel like rips. But like a lot of that work, I need to stress this, okay? I'm going to say this over and over. You guys are just going to hear me say, I say this every retrograde, okay? The retrograde is not here to mess with your flow. It really isn't. I know it feels like it does, but the retrograde's purpose, I'm going to say this again. The only way to recognize the difference between a groove and a rut is if you get knocked out of it for a second, right? The only way to recognize the difference between a groove and a rut is if you get knocked out of it for a second, right? So sometimes we have a little bit of some of these kerfuffles that occur in the retrograde period, right? And we move back into where we were, right? So that's reaffirmation of commitment in relationality to something that we're doing. Sometimes though, and this is the gift of the retrograde, having a little bit of that disruption point, right, changes your perception, right? It changes your ability to see something. It makes you have to take a different tactic. And that energy can be utilized often in that state or space of breakthrough, right? And it can, I know how hard it can be. I know how hard it can be hearing that in the experiencing of navigating it. But being able to recognize and identify that, not feeling overwhelmed by those frustrations, but allowing it to propel you forward into breakthroughs right now. That's going to be a lot of that, that's a lot of that work that we see is occurring in these modalities right now. Masculine and feminine, deep within the divine union frequency. A lot of this has to do right now with the aspect of navigating the internal hurdles as it relates to spaces and places wherein you doubt yourself and you doubt your own ability, right? Masculine energy going through a little bit of this emotional overwhelm right now, potentially feeling the weight of the emotions that they're energetically carrying that sometimes feel very again, there's a lot of that masculine energy that's doing a lot of that heart opening right now. It's hard, right? Because it's requiring that sense of finding a way to carry or navigate it. So we see even now, I'm going to say this again for masculine, please don't get triggered today. I just keep seeing this coming through for masculine over and over and over this week. Feminine energy, this is hitting more in the practical end. This is feminine that often has these modalities right now of doubting their own ability to bring things forward, right? This is the feminine energy that doubts their self. They doubt their own abilities, right? Because there's a lot of the feminine energy right now that's doing that work and redefining, again, that ability of maintaining energetic standards. We saw even there, these were modalities wherein, again, if feminine felt like they weren't meeting energetic expectations, like working via the energetic counterpart of the masculine immediately brings forth the question, whose expectations? Whose expectations are you disappointing? Is there something outside of the self, or is it something from within? So we see even now that a lot of that work that's happening here, it's like the grinding of the gears to a certain extent. It's hard, but it's productive. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, this is incredibly important because we saw that out of every frequency yesterday, the energy coming into divine union, there was a lot more of that volatility, right? Because while we are recognizing that some of the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, there's more of that adaptability in recognizing and understanding the energetic feeling of what is happening around you as opposed to what's happening within. While for the energy coming into divine union right now, we saw and recognized that there was something here happening specifically in relationality to communication. There is a lot of energy right now coming into divine union that's experiencing communication blockages or working through the aspect or perceptions of how to have difficult conversations. That is having a different impact on masculine and feminine, because I'm seeing here that for a lot of the energy right now coming into divine union, there's something really important about the fact that masculine is feeling very emotional about something that feminine is not feeling in the same way about. Feminine's looking at something more in a more practical way. And so we even saw that there may have been a bit of that. What happens when you're approaching a conversation from two different aspects? The ability to have miscommunications is rampant, right? That's why we were even saying not coming into that pathwork of assumption, not assuming someone feels exactly the way that you feel, but having that ability of navigating through something with curiosity, with introspection, being able to articulate upon how one is feeling as opposed to subjecting another to what one is feeling. This is what is allowing a lot of the energy right now to recognize or navigate or come through some of those hurdles and challenges. And that's why I was stressing yesterday was not a time to be coming into a space of assuming the worst, but almost again, especially for masculine, because whatever this was creating a lot of that vulnerability. We saw it had to do potentially with the past, potentially with things that the feminine does not, like I told you, there was a strong message coming through yesterday about the aspect or situation wherein the masculine holds on to things only because they hold intrinsic value. Feminine having more of that ability of just holding on to things for the sake of holding on to things. There's a little bit of that. That's why I see even here, like there's a little bit of that energetic confusion that's there that requires that like need for energetic clarification. So we see even now like that ability of doing so, navigating those hurdles. This could even be some energy like hitting their like first conflict moment, right? That's what's allowing for a breakthrough point. Because if you go through and navigate a conflict with someone and you recognize that you're able to bring it into healthy or easy resolution, you know what I mean? Like, thank you, retrograde, because it almost shows it like it becomes a learning moment, right? It becomes an educational moment. Whereas again, for the energy that is like, you know, and I even said this, for some of this energy, navigating that disruption is really valuable and important, because some of this energy could have been knocked out of divine union, specifically because someone was making an assumption about something as opposed to energetically listening. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of this work right now in separation has to do with energetic obstacles. It has to do with energetic obstacles. But what's important right now that we keep seeing is there's a lot of breakthroughs that are happening in relationality to, again, the pathwork of the self, via the identification point of what feels like it is a tangible hurdle, as opposed to, I want to say, like a personal conflict or a personal problem. That is having a difference between masculine and feminine energy. Bearing in mind, this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For a lot of the masculine energy right now, something about being able to look at something with it, like a lot of the energy of the masculine, opening up to feminine in some way, seeing what can occur in those modalities of bringing your emotional authenticity to feminine and feeling the feminine coming into that state or space of building into a place of trust with the masculine. That perception is potentially imparting a lot of clarity to masculine right now as it relates to circumstances and situations from the past. So I'm going to say this again to masculine energy and separation. If these are experiences or in modalities wherein, again, you're looking back at the past and you're holding any kind of modality of energetic regret, particularly in the realm of not being able to communicate through something as effectively as you can now, I want you to pat yourself on the back. Because that ability of recognizing that change in one's own self, it shows how far you have come. It shows how fast you have grown. It shows how much progress you have made. So being able to navigate that right now, we're seeing even here, like some of this work that's occurring has to do with the frustrations of the masculine in recognizing and identifying like how to energetically communicate is what I'm really seeing. So, and a lot of that work right now, I even see this, there's a lot of, I want to say there's a lot of a masculine energy right now that is navigating like what they're emotionally feeling and whether there's some productive path work for it on it. Because again, this is either masculine energy that's really doing a lot of work to try to navigate what feels like a big like a big energetic hurdle moving towards something that someone they feel emotionally close to. Or this is a lot of the masculine energy and that modality of contemplation about some inability to communicate the way that you can now from via looking towards past experiences. While for feminine energy right now in separation, a lot of this work that we're also seeing, this is feeling like a lot of potential karmic clearing that we're seeing. Because if this is feminine energy that, again, was looking at experiences from the past, wherein potentially navigating those spaces and places, wherein the masculine, like some of that experience of, again, feeling the intentionality that masculine is bringing forth at a moment that you're experiencing those tangible obstacles, it creates that state or space of understanding and relationality to something that you may have experienced in the past that felt like those obstacles or those hurdles were always there. A lot of the feminine energy redefining, again, the relationship, looking at the conditions of a relationship and asking if that reciprocity that they were seeking was ever part and parcel there. Because being able to define the nature of something as opposed to what you want to bring forth within it, for a lot of the feminine energy, some of that healing that's coming through in relationality to those past experiences has to do with the recognition point of experiencing modalities of the masculine when they're in that unhealed state. When they allow those inner child wounds to guide them forward, it can often create contexts of relationships that feel like they're one-sided, or it feels like you have to put a lot of care and support into them. Because when we experience the energy of an unhealed inner child, that's that modality that expects to receive and receive and receive as opposed to giving and giving, because reciprocity is something that we learn as we grow. So we see even now that for a lot of that energy, that is what is allowing a lot of the feminine to move forward right now, letting go of any energetic bitterness, but at the same time maintaining the energetic standards of compassion, but compassion for the self first as you continue forward on your journey. Second card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our 7 of Cups in its upright. Now, masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. A lot of this work that we're potentially seeing right now has to do with explore. And look, this is what we want to see in retrograde periods. Because look, what do we got here? We've got here that rut. We've got here that blockage point. What happens when you hit a blockage point and you don't let yourself feel stuck? You don't let yourself feel overwhelmed. It allows for the new possibility of path work. It allows for those possibilities to be explored. So we see even now that there's a lot of that energy in separation that is exploring and expanding upon their own possibilities. And this is either coming into the context of, again, an energetic connection that has a lot of tangible hurdles, trying to identify and recognize what could potentially be possible that could happen even with some of those hurdles that feel like they may be like they're not necessarily going anywhere, right? Or these are energies that are recognizing and identifying, moving away from a circumstance or situation with an understanding that the obstacles, being able to have a healthy closure point, not taking something energetically personally as you continue forward, that's allowing for this expansiveness, because a lot of the energy here, leaving some of these scenarios, is potentially feeling the healing, is feeling like that moment of coming out of an experience and feeling like one's eyes are opened, or one recognizes possibilities that you didn't see before because of the valuable lessons that you took with an energetic, authentic connection. Masculine and feminine energy right now coming into divine union. This is why I was saying it was so vitally important to make sure that you weren't coming into a state or space of allowing oneself to become overly reactive yesterday. Because if these are energies that we're experiencing any kind of volatility, particularly and especially in those experiences wherein we recognize and understand that we're seeing here that it was looking like we saw that there were some situations wherein, again, masculine was feeling very emotionally sensitive about something. Feminine was looking at something very pragmatically. That ability to have two energies that were perceiving something in different ways. What is really valuable in that moment being able to recognize and understand the other energetic perspective. So if these are the energies that we're able to navigate through those hurdles in a way that, again, amplified empathy, curiosity, communication, that becomes the energetic expansion point, because this is the energy that is almost feeling the release and relief of having experienced what could have been like, like maybe even in the past, something that would have been extremely energetically disruptive to a connection, but instead became an expansive point, right? Because that's what happens when we're able to navigate conflict in a positive way. It becomes an expansion point in relationality to the lessons or the understanding that is learned through it. So either we see here that there's a little bit of that energy here that is like, I want to say, keeping an open mind, right? Through an energetic hurdle, right? Allowing that to be the expansion point. Whereas again, I see that this could have led to some energy coming into divine union, wherein again, if that was that modality where you got too overly reactive, you weren't coming from that state or space of emotional compassion, if you weren't allowing for that ability or possibility of breakthrough here, we could even see that this could be something that feels more like an ongoing conflict and trying to navigate what could now be like a communication blockage. While for masculine and feminine, deep within the divine union frequency right now, this is self-exploration. This is a lot of energy right now. For masculine, this is a lot of the masculine energy that's feeling emotional overwhelm and trying to channel it into productive spaces and places. Like the last couple of days, we saw that for some of the masculine, just having a moment of just allowing oneself to like energetically release to a certain extent. Like this is now feeling productive, because this is the energy of the masculine that may be feeling more ready to tackle circumstances or situations right now, fortified by, again, feeling the security or support of feminine, that was able to kind of create that construct or that space or place where they felt like it was safe to be in that modality of vulnerability. While for some of the feminine energy right now, this is feminine energy deep within the divine union, like divine union frequency, that like, I gotta say, this is feminine energy getting like really pragmatic right now during this retrograde side time, because I usually see this type of energy with the masculine, which is like, again, like when masculine sees the energetic hurdles, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. Masculine almost sees them with the perception of like a bunch of nails that just need to get hammered. Feminine's taking a little bit of that energy on for themselves right now. This is feminine energy, is just heading out and like trying to tackle as much as they can, utilizing the productive power of the retrograde, that slowdown that allows the ability to get new things done. Third card in our 5-card spread for today is we have here our Temperance card in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is deep within the divine union frequency. A lot of this energy that we're seeing right now being built upon or based upon patience. Allowing that level or degree of patience, giving oneself that sense of patience. For masculine and feminine energy right now, a lot of that work that we're seeing is just in the relationality or the ability of, again, building into that sense of not allowing oneself to get triggered, but almost, again, building into that state or space of having, like what happens in that modality where you feel the slowdown of the retrograde. But you don't let yourself feel frustrated towards it. You get productive. There's a lot of the energy right now that's getting very productive during this retrograde, specifically and particularly because, again, it's almost like, and this is the masculine kind of taking on some of that same feeling that the feminine's been having through this retrograde, which is something that we like right now. Because we do see that to a certain degree, there is a bit of alignment that's occurring right now for masculine and feminine. I need to stress this. There might not be a lot of communication today, because when these energies are in alignment, often it's not creating a lot of interactivity. So we see even now that some of that ability of doing so, maybe a lot of work that's being put forth right now, being very practical, getting things done. For masculine, this could even be like taking some of that emotional unpacking that you may have been doing over the last couple of days and allowing it like allowing it to kind of like, I want to say, like build into that sensor space of like, I want to say this is masculine getting like a little bit more emotionally hopeful right now. Feminine energy, this is just the feminine energy that isn't rushing, like isn't rushing the process. This is the feminine energy almost saying to themselves, it takes the time that it takes, and the consistency is key. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing, and this is, I'm telling you right now, guys, I really, really hope you guys didn't get triggered yesterday, because I see even here that for a lot of that energy, like, and I'm going to say this, if there was some energy yesterday that had some volatility because the masculine was feeling overly sensitive about something that the feminine almost like did not like, I can, and that's the thing about it, like I can see that there was something about that emotional volatility of masculine holding something very preciously, feminine, you know, being more pragmatic about something. If that created an explosive point here, this could be a lot of energy that's like, it's giving a little bit of like energetic standoff vibes. It's giving me a little bit of this like quiet and contemplative in relationality to only now having a point of opening up one's own perception. And that's why I was saying it was so important and valuable to make sure that you were coming towards something from a point of curiosity, from a point of introspection, from a point of recognizing and being empathetic for the feelings and the emotions of the energetic counterpart. Because I'm seeing even here that for some of this energy, if this created conflict yesterday, this is some of that post, I want to say like post argument hangover energy that you can sometimes see, right? Like that reconsideration point that happens after the fact. So again, I want to say this, if you experienced some kind of conflict space yesterday, just remember, you know, it's not our job to be energetically perfect. It's our job to navigate spaces and places with accountability and with a sense of recognizing and identifying what you can change going forward to prevent those same things from occurring. So we see even now that there may be a little bit of like, I want to say there's a little bit of energetic pacification that may be occurring here around some circumstances, especially if something got volatile yesterday. While for the energy coming into divine union that built into a point of conflict but immediately came into restorative or healthy resolution towards it, having that moment of empathy, having that moment of recognition of the counterpart, that also allows for that pathwork of possibility to open. There's a lot of energy right now that is feeling the easement in experiencing what could have been like, maybe even recognized in the past would have been a bigger conflict in other experiences, but here was like a small flare up, right? So a small flare up that led to like new productive opportunities or ideas emerging. So we see even now that for some of that energy, like there's a lot of that coziness or compassion that's coming into play. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, in separation, a lot of that work that we're potentially seeing right now in separation has to do with those modalities and experiences wherein we're recognizing that masculine and feminine energy, there's a lot of new possibilities is what I'm seeing that's happening here. I'm even seeing that there may be a lot of new connections that like this is energy that's ready to like move. Like this is energy that's either having ideas in terms of how to build a connection into a deepening of a divine union, like through an ongoing obstacle. Or this is energy that's ready to move forward right now because the gift, the value of the energetic lesson that was received in a modality wherein, again, there was an outside recognition of what was preventing something from moving forward. But even in those modalities, building into deep friendships or connection points, this is what is allowing so much of that energy right now to move forward with that sense or space of I want to say, like recognition, because that recognition is feeling like one is on the right path, because especially and particularly if this is energy that receives some kind of like understanding about a past energetic connection, even in the modality of coming into a point of separation in the present. We see even here, like a lot of that energy is feeling the reassurance of feeling like they're moving in the right energetic direction, because they're like, that's like something of seeing something and being like, the only thing that was preventing that was the tangible hurdle, right? Not the interconnectedness. Fourth card in our 5-card spread for today is Queen of Swords in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is in separation. A lot of this work that we're seeing right now, and I have to stress this, I do see that there may be some energy. I'm telling you, yesterday we saw in separation some of the masculine energy having a little bit of a light bulb moment. Having a little bit of an understanding, like we saw that some of the masculine energy, that light bulb moment might be how to like something that can be effectively done to navigate like those energetic hurdles. So we see even now, like there could be a lot of those conversations that are potentially occurring in separation towards feminine to like, I want to say like to get feminine's like opinion on something, to get feminine's perspective, right? So we see even now that for a lot of the masculine energy in separation right now, that ability of bringing something towards feminine that feels like, again, and that's the gift of the retrograde, sometimes feeling an energetic obstacle that allows you to expand one's own mind in terms of the possibilities of something. We see even here that there's some of that feminine and masculine energy that is working on that, some of that work here. And a lot of it, I want to say, there's a lot of this energetic contemplation that's coming through. I see a lot of conversations in separation that may have said, like, it's giving me like time to think kind of energy. It's giving me like a little bit of that. I've had some time to think and I've got a few new ideas on something. While for feminine, you know, with a lot of that feminine energy too, you know, I think that the thing about this right now is for feminine, again, I think that one of the things that I'm identifying here is that feminine energy in separation is experiencing or working through communication with masculine in some way that feels like I want to say it feels like it is considerate, right? And that consideration, like that energetic consideration, that is a lot of the energy of the feminine that is feeling, again, that sense of moving towards something that feels like it is restorative, because there's a masculine energy I'm seeing coming towards feminine in separation right now. Thank you for that gift. That we see is recognizing the fact that like masculine isn't just like, what happens when feminine sees masculine come towards them in a way that that they consider multiple possibilities. That feels beautiful for the feminine, because that's the masculine that is recognizing and identifying that the feminine is in that modality of being able to be a part of being able to recognize and identify those choices. So we see even here that there's a lot of that feminine energy that's healing in separation, specifically because of that act of energetic consideration that's being brought forth towards them, that may be, again, redefining those experiences in the past that may have felt like masculine was approaching feminine more from a perspective of like the self, right? Again, the unhealed inner child energy that just feels like it's moving in the modality of consideration of the self as opposed to the consideration of the feminine. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, again, I see one or two different modalities that is potentially occurring right now in coming into divine union. These are either those experiences where, and again, if there was some kind of kerfuffle yesterday, if there was some kind of like space or place where the masculine, you were feeling overly sensitive about something, but instead of reacting from that place of oversensitivity, you allowed for that point of vulnerability. You allowed that moment of explanation towards feminine to articulate upon how you are feeling, why you are feeling it, what you are feeling, instead of subjecting the feminine to what you are feeling. Like this could be a lot of that energy that was experiencing like the tie that binds here. Because that, and again, if feminine was in that modality of receiving masculine in that point of vulnerability without getting defensive, right? Without taking something energetically personally. And again, allowing for that variance of recognizing how much it takes for a masculine to be able to articulate in that way. We see even now that there's a lot of energy that may have experienced a conflict point, and now they're coming into that modality of feeling the peace of how easily they were able to navigate it into resolution. While for some of the energy right now, and I tried to warn you guys about this yesterday, if these were experiences wherein, again, masculine energy was too volatile, too emotionally reactive, communicating too much from the state or space of the emotions, feminine becoming too energetically defensive, because when masculine subjects the feminine to the emotions, it doesn't allow the feminine to try to protect the masculine so much as they feel like they have to protect from the masculine. We see even now, like, this could be a little bit of the nursing of wounds, if you will, in relationality to feeling like, again, that point of productivity wasn't necessarily reached, but rather it may have felt like a bit more of that energetic separation. But we see even now, like, these are energies that are trying to, like, navigate their own protectiveness right now in order to facilitate trying to build back into an energetic connection. The difficulty or hurdle here for that would be the fact that feminine is feeling very vulnerable in that modality. And when feminine is feeling vulnerable, it's hard for the feminine to communicate because the feminine does not feel energetically protected. While for masculine and feminine, and masculine, if you're trying to come into a point of restoration right now, like around situations like that, I want you to identify that. I want you to identify that in those modalities where you subject someone to your emotions, it becomes something that someone needs to shield against instead of leaving oneself open towards. While for masculine and feminine energy, that is deep within, and for feminine energy, again, when you become energetically defensive, then that's that modality of the masculine feeling like they can't hear, right? So we see even now, like, both of these energies doing a little, like, working through a little bit of that recognition point potentially on what one needs to change within oneself and how to navigate, like, disruptions going forward. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, a lot of this work has to do with feeling the doubts about the self. And again, some of that overprotectedness that we saw that was coming through with the energy, some of that overprotectedness that was coming through right now, the energy the other day, a couple days ago, like within the energy coming into divine union is now impacting some of the energy deep within the divine union, because I see even now, like, again, there's something about that masculine energy towards feminine where the masculine is feeling very emotionally protective of the feminine, right? There's a lot of that work that we're seeing here right now where, like, the masculine is, again, almost like I see a lot of that masculine energy feeling that point of energetic frustration, reminding themselves that it's not their obligation to feel that need to energetically protect the feminine to a certain extent. While we see even now that for a lot of that feminine energy navigating in that space, that has to do, like, this has to do with a lot of the feminine having those modalities of, again, doubting the self, like doubting their own self, doubting their own abilities, right? But we see even now that, like, I have to stress this for some of the feminine energy right now, you know, that is that work of coming into a heightened sense of confidence. There's a lot of work that's being done right now with energy deep within the divine union for feminine and building forward towards their own confidence. And a lot of that, and for masculine, a lot of it is coming through in that state or space of like building energetic strength while feeling so energetically connected to feminine. Like, I just kind of see that's occurring here. And it's requiring time because that's a little bit of that restlessness. I told you, feminine's navigating this, like, heavy, this slowdown a little bit easier than the masculine is right now. I mean, a lot easier. Fifth card in our 5-card spread for today is, we've got here our Queen of Wands in its reversal. Feminine energy deep within the divine union right now. This may be a lot of work. This is like a lot of work of feminine with feminine energy. Like, there's a lot of work that I'm seeing here that this is even energy within the divine union frequency of feminine. Not only navigating those spaces and places within the self. But this is almost feminine energy coming towards the energetic support of other feminine in the process. We're just seeing here that even now, like, this is the energy, like almost like reaching out, like this is like phone a friend kind of stuff, being like, you feeling this too? And someone being like, yeah. You know what I mean? Like, but here's the thing, again, what happens when we're able to articulate? What happens when we're able to express something and we feel that communion of someone that's able to also experience it too? We see even now that for a lot of that energy, experiencing those modalities and just having that sense of someone else being in that same modality as us, like that's that moment that almost feels like that sense of affirming and helping someone recognize and identify and say energetically, like, you're not alone. Right? Like, so we see even now, this could be a lot of the feminine energy that feels that need or desire to connect to other feminine energy in this modality, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to. For masculine energy in this modality right now, a lot of this that we're seeing is coming through right now has to do, I just want to say, I told you this is the overprotectiveness that we were seeing that was in the energy coming into divine union, kind of now rising up into the energy within the divine union frequency. Because we see even here that for a lot of that masculine energy, navigating those spaces and places, this is just the masculine, like, again, really how, like, this could be also masculine energy that's like articulating those experiences wherein, I want to say, this is a lot of unpacking here for masculine within the divine union frequency, because this is a lot of the masculine energy that is feeling energetically, this is the masculine energy that is feeling overly protective for the feminine energy that doesn't feel like they need energetic protection. This is like almost that modality to a certain extent, because this is the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, that is almost like, navigating. There's a lot of unpacking here that's happening right now, particularly for masculine, experiencing like this is unpacking experiences in the past, wherein the masculine may have felt like the feminine like leaned on them energetically too heavy. I'm just seeing that here. There's a little bit of that modality of forgiveness of the past self that's happening for masculine energy right now, deep within divine union. And a lot of that is helping heal any experiences or spaces or places wherein the masculine felt like they weren't good enough, or they weren't meeting energetic expectations to a certain extent. Because I see even here, like, a lot of that emotional security that the masculine is receiving within the divine union right now is helping them, really reaffirm their, like, again, I'm going to say this, like, the masculine recognizing that their intrinsic value does not rest upon or rely being able to be that point of stability for those around them. Like, a lot of the masculine energy is almost healing in that way, because this is a lot of that inner child healing that's coming forward. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that I'm seeing for the energy coming into divine union right now, and this is why I was saying, if there was any kind of energetic conflict yesterday, making sure that you were able to navigate it from a place of compassion and not allowing oneself to feel energetically triggered. Because I either see right now that there's something here that feels profoundly healing, like something about navigating a conflict in a way that would have created a huge disruption in the past. That again, it's that same energy that I just described within the divine union of the masculine observing, like, that sense of the feminine, bringing that sense of, like, keeping an open mind towards something that allows that open mind to kind of build a bridge, if you will, versus, and feminine in that modality of recognizing and understanding the vulnerability it takes for the masculine to express in that modality. But I do see that there may have been some energy where if that became too volatile yesterday, there could be a lot of quietude here. There's a lot of quietude there's a lot of contemplation. I could even see right now that there may be some feminine that's talking to some other feminine energy about those experiences, trying to articulate upon like how best to navigate to a certain extent. Specifically and particularly, because I don't like seeing this type of energy. It could have required, like it feels like a little bit of that like energetic fallout here. I want to say it again. If you have those experiences where you recognize that you feel like you are too volatile, if you have those experiences wherein you recognize that you are too reactive, accountability is how we heal. It doesn't require us to be perfect. It requires us to recognize those modalities where we move out of alignment with how we were intending to move towards someone. The difficulty here is, again, if this was masculine that became too overly emotional, that recognition point that when the masculine becomes overly emotional in a way that the energy feels like they're subjecting someone to their emotions instead of articulating through them, it can be hard for the feminine to connect with the masculine because the feminine does not feel energetically safe to do so. So we see even now that may be why I see so much of this feminine energy right now in that space of vulnerability, because that's that moment that it feels like the emotions build a wall, they build a barrier instead of building a bridge. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming like in separation right now, there's a lot of this energy I'm seeing in separation that is coming towards, I want to say, like it's coming towards one another with these are either connections, and I have to say this, I'm sorry to say it, I'm not someone who says this very much, but this could even be some experiences that are coming back from the past right now because someone has some kind of new perception, new perspective on something. And for masculine and feminine energy, it does feel energetically different, like different. Because I'm seeing that for some of the masculine energy, again, a lot of that breakthrough point may have been a breakthrough that was occurring as it relates to an energetic hurdle within the self or outside of the self. So this could either be like something that feels like it's an energetic solution to a problem that's being brought forth towards the feminine to see their own opinion on it, or I'm seeing here that these are modalities or possibilities of, again, going forward at this time. Actually, like allowing oneself a sense of being able to start making new energetic connections, because that observational point of an energetic connection that's coming into separation because the tangible hurdles are too great is allowing a point of healing and catharsis. And even here we see that's a slow process. It doesn't feel like someone rushing into an energetic connection, because again, one of the things that we're seeing that's happening so much right now is quality over quantity. Next, continuing to get clarification between our 8 of Wands in its reversal and our 7 of Cups in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal. Masculine and feminine energy in separation right now. This is good to see because this is practical. This is practical. There's a lot of practicality that's being brought forth right now for a lot of the energy in separation. So this could be new plans, a change in plans, a new idea, a new consideration point, something that is being brought forth. And what we like about this is, again, and we were articulating this the other day, the difference between just articulating to someone like how you energetically feel versus being able to have something that feels like taking that emotionality and utilizing it in a productive way. A lot of this, it feels like there's that aspect of consideration towards things, specifically and particularly because, and I like to point this out, if this is feminine energy that's working on that pathwork of recognizing and identifying and healing from that modality in the past of the unhealed inner child that they were potentially building connections with, right? Like, I like to point this out. Unhealed inner children, what do unhealed inner children do? They articulate what they need. They articulate how they feel, but they don't articulate what they need, right? Like an unhealed inner child will say, I'm hungry. And it's your responsibility to try to find the food for them, right? But again, this is that point of productivity in the state or space that, again, that processing, someone being able to articulate and identify what that need is, and then being able to pro-offer what it is that they're energetically seeking. This is what I like to see so much in the energy and separation, because it feels like an assessment in relationality to what feels like it is productive in the realm of possibility, as opposed to just the articulation of an energetic need, demanding to be fulfilled, but not articulating upon how. So we see even here, like, I have to stress, this is a retrograde, but it is a very productive retrograde. There's a lot of contemplation that's coming through on this. Masculine and feminine, and it's new approaches. It's like a new take on some stuff. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now. Yeah, this is either the pathwork of restoration here. Being able, and this is why I was telling you not to get reactive yesterday, because this is giving me a little bit of the energetic solution after the fact. Being able to see something after the fact to a certain extent. So again, if these were modalities wherein, again, there was some kind of emotional conflict where masculine was feeling very emotionally sensitive and feminine was feeling very pragmatic, and there wasn't that point of consideration in terms of navigating and recognizing how someone was feeling and building that energetic bridge, if that was something that became too volatile and led to something that felt like more like separation, well, there's a little bit of this like energy here of like consideration that's coming after the fact, that this is even why this is feeling like a little bit of that pathwork of restoration, because this is the energy that's like thinking afterwards and being like, I shouldn't have said that, I shouldn't have done that, I should have been more like this, you know what I mean? But again, I'm going to say this again, having the ability to take accountability for what one would do energetically different, that is how we come into pathwork of restoration. It starts with the accountability. So we see even here, one of the hurdles, though, I will point out, I'm going to point this out for any of the energy that may have experienced an energetic conflict, is if this was a modality wherein the masculine was overly volatile in their emotional space, okay? Masculine energy, I want you to recognize this. When masculine energy is emotionally volatile, when you utilize your emotions and it feels more like you're subjecting another to them instead of expressing them, it creates a state or space of the feminine that feels the anxiety of connecting because they don't feel energetically safe to do so. So we see even now, like one of the hurdles that may be occurring right now for the energy that was experienced, that is, I see even now, that's why I see feminine energy potentially articulating to other feminine energy because they feel like it's safe to do so. So being able to recognize and identify that will be very viable in helping to try to restore and recognize what needs to be occur in terms of building into healthier energetic communication, like communication avenues. Feminine energy working through this right now, that's why we see even now, this could be a lot of the feminine that's like, again, potentially trying to navigate with masculine, having to handle a situation with kid gloves because of the angst. Like when the feminine sees the masculine become emotionally volatile, then the feminine has that anxiety point of emotionally connecting towards masculine because they don't want to create that same volatility. So we see even now that some of that energy coming into like restoration is almost requiring that sense of recognition of what may have effectively occurred prior to being able to move forward. While for masculine and feminine energy that navigated that effectively, this is like an easement point. This is kind of like the opposite that's occurring, because if this was a modality where you experience that, but then you immediately arrested your own unhealthy like coping mechanisms. For feminine, having that a moment of not becoming energetically defensive, and receiving what the masculine was bringing forth. Masculine coming into that state or space of articulating from the emotions instead of subjecting another towards them. That was effectively the tie that binds. So a lot of this energy is feeling the release and relief of having a conflict point and immediately coming into healthy resolution. And this could be the healthy resolution with ideas. This is the light bulb that comes through after the conflict that goes, you know what, I was thinking about what occurred yesterday. I just had a new idea. I just had a new solution to the problem. Like, you know what I mean? Like that's like the energetic gift that comes through when we communicate with one another effectively through an energetic challenge. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, A lot of this work that we're seeing that's occurring right now, deep within the divine union frequency, is navigating and experiencing. That's that moment of receiving that sense of this. Like, this is the energy, having the ideas within the, like, this is the energy getting to work right now. I told you a little bit of that light bulb moment was yesterday for the energy within the divine union. So I can see that a lot of that energy is utilizing and implementing whatever that light bulb moment was today. So for masculine, that could be being able to find that way of channeling the emotional overwhelm in a way that feels like it's productive. For feminine, this could be that modality of feeling that frustration point and finding of getting things done and finding something that feels like it works today. So a lot of potential solutions to problems that are occurring today. Continuing to get clarification between our Seven of Cups and our Temperance card in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Magician in its reversal. So again, working through the self-doubt, working through the doubting of the self. This is a lot of the energy that recognizes and identifies that, doubting of the self, it's not about that. It's about being patient through it to a certain extent. And this is a lot of the energy that, like I told you, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now is building into the confidence spectrum for masculine and feminine energy. For masculine energy right now, this was that modality of potentially feeling the emotional overwhelm that sometimes makes you doubt the self. But this is almost the masculine energy that's learning to embody, is learning to feel all of those emotions and suddenly realizing and recognizing and saying, I can use this. I don't need to be afraid of these emotions. I can utilize these in productive ways. Right? So this is a lot of the masculine energy that's learning how to heal via connecting to the emotional sense as part of self. While for feminine energy right now, this is the feminine energy that is coming out of that space of doubting the self. This is almost the feminine energy looking, again, this is feminine being so productive and pragmatic and saying, this doubting the self doesn't get anything done. Just doesn't get anything done. You know what I mean? It's not practical. So we see even now that a lot of that energy is just overcoming some of those energetic hurdles to a certain extent. It's almost like the feminine saying, I'm not going to sit here and feel feel bad about it. I'm going to do something, right? Feel like this is almost a feminine energy, having that less that energetic thing of saying, feeling bad about the self doesn't get anything done, right? Getting stuff done gets stuff done. Masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union. A lot of this work that we're seeing in relationality to coming into divine union right now, this is, like I told you, this is either one of two different modalities that I see is occurring right now. This is a little bit of that record scratch that I was seeing that potentially occurred yesterday. And some of that energy that I'm seeing here, again, for some, that may have been a small little record scratch, right? That might have been a small little thing. It might have been something that felt again, it's almost the fact, it's the easement point of seeing how easily you navigated through an energetic conflict that immediately feels empowering. It immediately feels restorative, specifically and particularly because it's a recognition point in not necessarily being in perfect lockstep, but then immediately being able to recognize and identify how easily, how simple it can energetically be when you're able to be in that space of trusting one another in terms of how you're trying to navigate a problem. While for some of the other energy right now that is navigating these spaces and places, this could feel like it was not great. This could feel like something that was because I see even now, it's the fact that for some of the feminine energy, again, if this was a state or space where the masculine became, I'm going to say it, overly emotive, subjected the feminine to the emotions instead of articulating through them. Well, we see even now, that's creating that space or place wherein the feminine may be navigating those circumstances with some kid gloves, because this is the feminine that almost feeling that vulnerability point in wanting to build towards masculine, but not wanting but trying to hold compassion for the self in the process. So we see even now that, again, if this was feminine that was becoming too energetically defensive, I see even that, like, and coming into that space of not hearing the masculine, if that was the masculine trying to articulate in a way to communicate their emotions, we see even now, like, there's a lot of energy that may be assessing and addressing, like, their own limitations in relationality to communication to try to ascertain what feels like a workable solution. So a little bit of that energetic work of restoration here. While for masculine and feminine energy right now in separation, a lot of this energy in separation right now, I either see that there's, for masculine, I see one of two different modalities. Trying to come forward with a solution to an energetic problem, bringing forth something to feminine that articulates that you have a different point of view, or you have a different perception, or you have a different idea from something that you may have had before. That's allowing for some kind of new channel of communication. Or I'm seeing here that this is masculine energy that is healing from the past, that is recognizing and identifying, like, what feels like a true, like, hurdle that can't be avoided, but that's allowing a breakthrough because the perception of the self that was reached in that modality is now allowing that opportunity of moving forward in such a way that you feel like you yourself have healed in some kind of profound way, particularly in the relationality towards the appreciation of building an authentic connection with feminine and being able to receive one back in kind. For feminine energy and separation right now, I see that a lot of the energy in feminine is also healing, because, again, I see one of two different modalities that is effectively occurring here. This is either, again, trying to overcome an energetic obstacle with masculine, and masculine being able to bring some kind of new perception or new idea towards something and seeing if you are, like, amenable towards it. Or I'm seeing here that this is feminine energy in separation that is experiencing and recognizing that the tangible hurdles are all that was blocking an energetic connection. And that ability of feeling the clarity or the healing of building into an authentic space with masculine, it feels like that moment of release and relief, because those are the energetic standards that you're taking forward with you as you proceed. Continuing to get clarification between our Temperance card in combination with our Queen of Swords in its reversal. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. So a lot of this easement that we're potentially seeing is occurring today. For masculine and feminine energy, deep within in separation, this is the energy, again, there's something about that modality of, again, experiencing what felt like either I'm seeing two different modalities again, an authentic energetic connection, recognizing the tangible hurdles, acknowledging them, coming into a point of energetic separation, immediately allowing that to be a moment that heals both masculine and feminine, because, again, these are not energies that are holding each other personally accountable for something that is outside of their own control. This is the energy that is recognizing and, again, holding each other with a sense of compassion even as they're proceeding forward, taking a little bit of that c'est la vie approach, but that's almost amplifying their own sense of recognizing and feeling like they're moving forward on their path. While for masculine and feminine energy in separation right now, where this is masculine that is bringing forth to feminine a new point of view, a new perspective, a new idea, a new breakthrough. This could be something that is allowing easement in an energetic connection, that is allowing for a sense of release and relief from feminine, because this is the energy that feels like they may be able to move towards divine union. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, this is either energy in one of two different modalities. This is the energy that's feeling the release and relief of having gone through an energetic conflict and seeing how easy it can be, experiencing how simple it can be, feeling the easement point and going, well, that was easy. Because even there, this is the energy that feels that restorational point, and recognizing that it doesn't require you to be in energetic lockstep every time. It helps you navigate those hurdles in a way that feels like it brings immediate energy, like peace to a situation. So this is the energy that's like giving themselves like a pat on the head and being like, we handled that very well. While for the energy that is, wherein there was some kind of communication disruption here, there may be a lot of this, like, there may be a lot of self-assessment that's coming through on something here. And for masculine and feminine, it's different. For masculine energy, that may be that modality of recognizing if this was an experience where you let your emotions, if you subjected to another to the emotions instead of articulating how you were feeling. For a lot of the masculine energy, this might be that point of reconsideration and identifying and recognizing how you may have navigated that in a different way. Because again, when you subject another to your emotions, there's no way of communication. That creates a wall. While for feminine energy right now, that ability, if that was masculine that was trying to authentically or speak towards you, but instead of receiving it with that emotionality or vulnerability, you became energetically defensive and like more in that space of negation as opposed to listening. We see that both of these energies are doing that work right now and identifying and recognizing what feels like an energetic breakthrough point, because this is that modality of almost going through the self-assessment between what you feel like you would do differently versus what you energetically received. There could be some feminine talking to other feminine about that right now. Well, for the energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, this is a breakthrough point. This is a breakthrough point in relationality to, again, feminine getting over some of those like this is the energy of the feminine saying like, I don't feel confident, but I'm going to do it anyway. Like there's a little bit of this energy right now for feminine saying, I don't feel confident, but I'm going to do it anyway, because that's a lot of the feminine energy recognizing that that's what confidence is. Like there's your message for Leo season. You want to know what confidence is? Confidence is simply not feeling confident and doing it anyway. I just got to tell you, again, that's your message for Leo season. You want to know the secret for confidence? There's no confidence. The secret for confidence is you don't feel confident. You just do it anyway. Okay? So for a lot of the feminine energy, this is that, and like this is that message that's coming through for Leo season. And you may be getting it from the counterpart of the masculine, being like, oh, nobody's confident. You just, it's more about just like confidence is like, the recklessness of doing it anyway and feeling like trusting in the process along the way. While for masculine energy right now, that's that modality of the masculine feeling that expansion point in the heart center. And feeling, and like it's harder doing something when you feel emotional about it, right? But this is the masculine energy that again is allowing that emotional expansion point. It's like a floodgate, right? So a lot of this masculine energy that we're seeing within the divine union frequency is not trying to close that off. It's integrating it. It's like finding a way to flow through it. So we see even now that these are the energies that are assisting one another on the way, because they're helping each other with the energetic lessons. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our Queen of Swords and its reversal in combination with our Queen of Wands and its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now with, we've got here our Knight of Pentacles and it's upright. We like this because when you allow yourself, again, when you like a lot of the masculine energy, bearing in mind this is not based on gender, but what it feels most aligned to, deep within the divine union frequency. This is a lot of the masculine energy that's like, I can use this emotionality in productive ways. But not like in a way. Like, I need to stress this. This is a lot of the masculine energy. This is saying to me like this is creativity. You know what I mean? This feels productive, in the sense that it feels energetically creative. Like it feels like that emotionality that allows for that, like that ability of like like I told you, a little bit of that light bulb moment that's almost coming through in relationality to the masculine. And this is almost a lot of the masculine energy, if it's like they were feeling an emotional overwhelm and being like, I can't do what I need to do because of the emotional overwhelm. That's what I need to do. That's what I need to do. Like that's the masculine, like stepping back and like getting a little bit of that perception point and recognizing that in itself is like something that they can navigate, because this is a lot of the masculine that's able to integrate right now, and it's allowing that point of productivity. For a lot of the feminine energy right now, a lot of that work that we're seeing has to do with the feminine coming into that sense of productivity, because this is the feminine energy coming through with their confidence space. And this is the feminine energy being like, it doesn't matter if I feel confident about it. If I do it, that's the confidence. The confidence is in the doing. The confidence isn't about building the confidence. The confidence is just doing the thing, even if you're not confident, While for masculine and feminine, and I can see this, like, this is a lot of the feminine energy that's like giving each other pep talks along the way. Because I see here there's a lot of that feminine energy that may be connecting to other feminine energy today. While for masculine and feminine energy that is coming into divine union, if this was a conflict space, I got to tell you, I see that there may have been a lot of first conflict energy that occurred yesterday. It just potentially happened. And again, why? We got Leo season, we got big egos. We had that amplification occurring with the 8-8 portal. And then on top of it, we got the retrograde. Like, yeah, guess what? Like, it's going to just kind of happen. But again, for the energy that was able to communicate effectively through a conflict point, this is the solution that's coming here. This is the energy that may be having that light bulb moment in relationality to something. And so we see even now, like, this is the energy of the conflict that feels like conflict is productive space. We don't want to avoid conflict. Conflict, again, when you get knocked out of your groove a little bit, gives you a whole new perspective. So we see even now, like, this could be a lot of that energy that had that productive conflict to a certain extent and is almost, again, coming forward and coming to a point of appreciation, saying, you know what, I really appreciate, like, this is the energy almost like patting themselves on the back and saying, I really appreciate how we handled that. I really appreciate how you handled that, right? While we see even now that for some of that energy, and this is what I'm worried about, for some of that energy that experienced that, if these were modalities wherein either masculine was feeling a lot of emotional sensitivity, and instead of articulating through the emotional sensitivity, talking about how they feel, talking about what they feel, instead of just reacting to how they feel, it may have created that sense of the feminine having to become emotionally protective, having to close off to masculine, because when masculine subjects another to their emotions, they don't build a bridge with them, you build a wall. While for the feminine right now, if these are modalities wherein, again, masculine was trying to come towards you in a space of articulating what they were emotionally feeling, but you became too defensive, you became too negating, you became too not hearing what was being said, but more articulating upon your own perception. We see even now that there may be that modality here wherein both energies are having that point of contemplation in terms of recognizing and reorienting in terms of both what they would have done differently or what they would have done in a different way. And for feminine, this could be articulating towards another feminine, trying to get some outside perspective on something. While for masculine, this could be masculine coming into recognizing and taking some kind of energetic accountability for it. While continuing to get clarification on the energy in separation right now, I'm seeing even here, if this is energy in separation, this is either energy that is having some kind of breakthrough in relationality to how to move forward in a way that feels like it'll create an easement, or masculine coming towards feminine with some kind of new perspective or new possibility or some kind of tangible change that is allowing for a breakthrough. Or this is feminine energy and masculine in separation that is moving forward from an experience wherein, again, the insight that you received within it, recognizing the tangible obstacles that prevented an ability to come towards one another, is allowing that breakthrough point that's helping build upon the possibilities, because these are energies that are proceeding away from one another, having new energetic standards. Continuing to get clarification between our Ace of Pentacles in its reversal in combination with our Magician card in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify, please? Clarification coming through right now with our 10 of Swords. This card's been popping up like a lot this week. But again, it's not surprising to see this card right now because we're recognizing and identifying. We saw that there was a lot of that energetic change, right? That energetic change process that we see, it requires the shedding. It requires the shedding of some of the egoic self. So we're seeing, again, it's Leo season. A lot of what happens when we set new energetic standards. In order to set new energetic standards, you shed the past self, right? So there's a lot of energy right now that's doing that work, and they're moving the ego away in order to recognize and redefine what those standards are. So this could be a lot of the masculine energy right now that is recognizing, again, spaces. We talked about this yesterday. What happens when we allow our emotions to move us oppositional into the direction that we intend to go? Some would say that that happens when the egoic self takes too much control, right? So we're seeing even now that if there's masculine energy that's recognizing that path work in the past, I'm going to say it again, masculine, your own ability of recognizing those moments that your emotions guided you in a direction that was oppositional to the one that you wanted to head into. If you're perceiving that, congratulations, we call that growth. We call that advancement. We call that recognition of the self. That's you navigating and seeing one's own ego. And being able to navigate that, the ability to perceive it is how you proceed through it. So one's own ability to recognize that within the self, that is, again, a lot of the sign of the energy. It can feel devastating, right? It can feel devastating because the minute you see that within the self, you recognize that you're no longer inhabiting it. But that's a lot of the sign of the masculine energy that's on that pathwork to healing. So we see even now that this could be some masculine energy that is moving the ego aside to recognize and find what feels like it is practical. Because this is a lot of the masculine energy that may be moving from a state or space of authenticity from the heart space. But again, what happens, I'm going to say it again, what happens when we move from the heart space? We move with intentionality and we abandon the energetic outcome. We abandon the energetic outcome. We don't move for an effect. We move because we know it is what we determine and desire going forward. So we see even now that there's a lot of that masculine energy that is like coming into that space of recognizing or feeling like what that is, like that pathwork of determination. And some of it, it's like this is a lot of the masculine energy that's almost letting go of that past version of the self in the process that may have felt like those modalities or moments where you may have recognized it felt like you stood in your own way. For a lot of the feminine energy in this modality right now, having those points of observation, having those points of recognition, recognizing and identifying that these were spaces and places wherein, again, you felt like you were lowering your own energetic standard to be able to facilitate an energetic connection. Feeling like that sense of having to like have those standards that went lower and lower and lower until finally you were on the energetic floor. This is a lot of the energy of the feminine that's redefining some of those past experiences in that sense of remembering and reaffirming that a good energetic connection will never require you to lower your energetic standards. They will uphold them. They will honor them. They will support them. And so for a lot of the feminine energy during this time, that ability of experiencing that is either coming via the breakthrough of a masculine that's approaching you and navigating and maintaining one's own energetic standards, or this is the energy that's coming into healthy separation with masculine, recognizing that the tangible obstacles are all that was really allowing for the point of a connection not coming into fruition, that is helping to build those standards going forward as you proceed forward on your journey. While for masculine and feminine energy right now that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work coming into divine union right now, I'm telling you right now, I see one of two different modalities. And some of it, and one of it feels really restorative. One of it feels really like it needs to come into restoration. Because some of this energy here, if this was a conflict point, the ability of seeing something that felt like it would have been an explosion in the past, would have been like but instead like boop, like that, boop, like just a little trip, you know what I mean? Like a little off alignment. That ability of being able to come back into alignment so quickly, that ability of like being able to navigate that's the energy that feels that sense of release and relief, because that's the energy that says the big conflict energy is gone. We've navigated in that space or state that's not something that is entering that energetic experience, because it's not something that we allow to flourish. This is the energy that again recognizes that we go on the healing journey. Doesn't require us to be perfect. It requires us to recognize where we're not, to check ourselves, to prevent, like I told you, what did we talk about a few days ago? Honoring the sacred wounds, honoring those things in ourselves that we might not ever be able to remove. But as long as we see them, we don't have to react to them. And that ability, this is a lot of the energy that experienced that conflict point and didn't allow those wounds to emerge. And that's that modality that feels that easement point, because it feels like that conflict that you move into with the sense of being compassionate and protecting the partnership itself from those parts of the self that are unhealed. While for the energy right now, and I got to say this, if these were modalities where that became more explosive yesterday, if these were modalities where, and again, masculine allowed that over emotionality to project forward in a way that didn't feel like it was caring towards the feminine, but felt more like it was subjecting the feminine to the emotions. And if this was the feminine that came into that space of being too overly defensive, not hearing what the masculine was trying to articulate, or coming into that point of being like defensive about it instead of articulating through it, we see even now that some of that energy, it's feeling more energetically dense. It's feeling more like I feel like I need to stress this. It feels more, there's like a little bit more of that energy that feels more like I want to say that sense of, I want to stress this. If you're feeling some feeling of energetic failure there, I want you to recognize there's no failure. There's no failure. There are always lessons. So being able to articulate and recognize what that lesson was, like that's how you come into that pathwork of restoration, right? So we see even now that there may be a lot of that accountability that's coming through in the act of trying to restore what may have felt like it was not coming into a space or place that feels like it was productive or healthy. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, deep within the divine union frequency, this is just the energy that's like the gift that we're seeing here that's occurring for the energy within the divine union is navigating through those moments of feeling the sense of energetic failure. Because if these are the moments of the masculine feeling that emotional overwhelm in the past that would have potentially felt like it pulled you off of your own pathwork, would have moved you into that volatility space, but instead you're finding that ability of feeling like it is productive, finding that ability of kind of moving it into a space that feels like it's productive. Like this is a lot of the masculine energy that is feeling that sense of like restoration to a certain extent, because this is the masculine energy that is like, you know, it feels like, I want to say it's the masculine energy that's like, again, shedding the part of the ego that was trying to prevent them from being able to feel the full expanse of something, because if anything, it's more of the feeling or the recognition point of like how long it took to be able to come into that modality, right? And so this is a lot of that anxiety that's like being held forth that a lot of the masculine within divine union is like feeling, but it's coming through as like a sense of preciousness, of like honoring everything, even the anxiety, right? While for feminine energy in this modality right now, a lot of this work that we're potentially seeing within the divine union has to do with this sense of overcoming the doubt of the self. And if this is feminine energy that was almost like looking and saying, I'm just waiting until I feel ready, this is the feminine energy being like, I'm never going to feel ready. That doesn't exist. Nobody feels ready. Like, what do you, no, it's not, you're ready when you do it. Like, that's what readiness is. You're ready when you're doing it. If you wait for that moment that you feel energetically ready, this is a lot of the feminine energy being like, that's never going to come. You're never going to feel ready. You just do it, right? So we see even now, like a lot of that work that's happening here. Continuing to get clarification between our Magician card in its reversal in combination with our Seven of Wands in its reversal. May I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now, right? Self-limiting beliefs. This is the retrograde. We're all working on them. Self-limiting beliefs. And it's awful, right? It's real awful when you see those spaces or places where you hold yourself back, right? That's that moment. You're like, you look at yourself, you go, I see myself too. So like masculine energy, a lot of that has to do, there's a lot of care. There's a lot of emotionality that we're potentially seeing that's occurring here. And a lot of this work that we're seeing that is potentially occurring right now for masculine within the divine union has to do with that modality of, again, allowing oneself the opening up of like, I want to say possibility, because there's a little bit of this process here that the masculine is learning to let go of control. It's like, this is a lot of the masculine energy that's learning to let go of energetic control to a certain extent, because a lot of that modality is one with the masculine embracing, I'm going to say a lot of this work of the energy within the divine union is masculine embracing the control required in order to let go of control. It's learning the gift of the control it requires in order to let go of control, right? It's like just, it's zen. While for feminine energy, we see here that a lot of this work that we're recognizing and identifying has to do with the ability of the feminine to be in that modality or working through those experiences wherein you're trying to feel like you're energetically ready to do something instead of just doing it. Like just experience, like just imagine that you're perfect. Like imagine that you're ready. Imagine that imagine you're exactly who you need to be, to do the things that you need to do and to be the person that you want to be. Like a lot of that energy that we see here, like this is that dual path work, but both one energy is learned, like both energies are navigating that space or place of energetic control. Masculine has more to do with the external environment. Feminine has more to do with the internal. Masculine and feminine coming into divine union right now. This feels like navigating through some disruptive conflict points, because we saw that masculine was taking an emotional perspective on something. Feminine was being more pragmatic. Masculine was holding something at emotional value that feminine was trying to articulate did not feel as precious to them. So we see even now that for a lot of that work, having that modality either allowed for that moment of instantaneous energetic healing, seeing how easily one can navigate a hurdle and almost saying like, I'm good with that. This is the energy saying like, that's wonderful, because this is almost the energy that says to one another, even when things are hard, it's easy. Even when things are hard, you make it simple. The hardest thing feels like it's the easiest thing energetically when I'm with you, because that's the energy that's like, again, appreciating the fact that they're in alignment in terms of how they're navigating those points. And I want to say this, even if, don't get upset, don't get worried that you're falling out of alignment, even if you had a point of conflict, because again, being in alignment does not require you to be energetically perfect. It requires you to be able to take accountability on the way. So if these are modalities wherein, again, you experience some point of conflict here, some point of disruption, and you're having those points of recognizing, and now you're having that moment of being like, I could have handled that better. Well, articulate that. Articulate it. Articulate it. Use the power of your words to articulate that you feel, if you recognize that there's something that you wish that you would have done differently or better. Because the ability to articulate upon something is a sign of, again, recognizing something that you would do differently. So that is the basis through which new ground can be laid. Masculine and feminine energy right now in separation. I'm seeing even now, this is either the solution to an energetic problem. Someone coming towards another with a solution to an energetic problem. Saying, I've landed upon it. I found the solution. I recognize a change within myself that's going to allow for a connection. Or I've recognized something that's tangibly changing around me that's going to allow for an energetic connection. So we see even here, this could be a moment of release and relief for some energy right now experiencing that. Or we're seeing that this is energy that is moving through that experience wherein, again, identifying and recognizing that there's something about that healthy separation, not taking something personally, that something about the experience is one, that it's just the situation that's immediately allowing that expansion point, because these are the energies that are receiving the gift of the heightened energetic standards that they're holding along the way as they proceed forward on their journey. Continuing to get clarification between our Seven of Wands and its reversal in combination with our Knight of Pentacles and its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Five of Swords. Not surprised to see all these cards during the Mercury retrograde. So a lot of this consideration point for some of the energy right now. It's contemplative, guys. It's a contemplative Mercury retrograde. There's a lot of consideration for the past occurring right now. And I'm going to say it again. Masculine energy. If you're looking back on experiences of the past and you're feeling a sense of energetic regret on anything, well, congratulations. That means that you've come through a path of progress, because the ability to look at the past version of self and recognize that you would do something differently. I've got some wonderful news for you. You're in the present where you can do so. The present where anything is possible. So we see even now that a lot of that masculine energy is either coming into that space or place of providing forward that context of an energetic solution, or this is the energy that's building forth in a way that they're taking that energetic lesson. They're feeling the easement through which they were building forth with an energetic connection with feminine, were it not for the the tangible obstacles, and they're bringing that forward and utilizing that as the pathwork of the standards that they're holding forward as they continue forward on their journey. While for feminine energy right now, again, two different modalities right now. This is either masculine coming towards you in separation with a new perspective, with something tangible, with a new consideration point, potentially with a new solution to an energetic problem. And that feels like release and relief. Or we're seeing that this is the energy that is in that modality that is experiencing those moments of, again, having a healthy separation with the masculine. That was a recognition point of, again, trying to move towards one another with intentionality, but identifying and recognizing the obstacles that felt like they were too great a barrier. That's allowing that modality of the feminine, feeling the release and relief of setting the new energetic standards going forward in terms of what they're receiving from masculine. Continuing to get clarification on these cards right now between our 10 of Swords in combination with our 8 of Swords and its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with this card keeps popping up. This is the same exact card that we received yesterday, the 6 of Wands in its reversal. The Mercury retrograde is not here to put a funk on your flow, okay? I know it feels like that, but remember, difficulties, hurdles, allow new perspectives, allow new solutions. So we see even now that some of this is some of that hairiness. This is like the ick of the Mercury retrograde to a certain extent, because this point of energetic frustration, right? That's that moment, not allowing yourself to feel energetically defeated in those moments, allowing it to give you that shift of energetic perspective, considering new possibilities. And we see even now that for some of that energy, it's a recognition point in what you would have ideally desired to do better in the past. But guess what? If you're having modalities where you're looking back on the past and wishing that you could have done something better, that usually means that you're already in a perspective that you're not that person anymore. So masculine and feminine energy that is in separation, like a lot of this work that we're seeing in separation right now, it's bittersweet to a certain extent, right? It's a little bit bittersweet here because either there's either that modality, there's a little bit of this catch-up energy that I'm seeing here. So this is either the energy that is in separation, that's bringing something forward. But again, I need to stress this. When you bring something forward with intentionality, you surrender the energetic outcome, right? There's a lot of this energy I'm seeing here in separation that's like proceeding forward in such a way that's almost like the articulation of communication in terms of like saying something to someone and saying like, I'm bringing this forward not for the sake of feeling like something needs to occur, but almost feeling that sense of like identifying that I feel that need to tell you this. I feel that need to articulate this, right? Because there's a lot of that energy here that feels like the amplification of choice. And I feel like there's some energy that's almost like navigating those spaces or places wherein there was communication that felt like that amplification or that consideration of choice was not recognized, was not identified. So we see even here that a lot of that energy in separation is healing from modalities wherein it felt like the consideration of choice wasn't held in a point of endearment. Specifically for masculine, this is that modality of, again, feeling that energetic breakthrough to a certain extent. This is like the masculine putting something forward to feminine and saying, I'm not putting this forward because this is something that I determine we need to move towards. I recognize and identify that this is something that I want, that we both have to desire to move forward in this way, right? It's like the possibility that like is hard to put forward because it feels like that amplification of uncertainty in relationality to how something is received. While for feminine energy right now, a lot of that work that we're seeing in separation is, again, either feeling that breakthrough point in relationality to experiencing or having something masculine come towards you in a way that is like built upon or based upon consideration for your own, perspective or your own point of view. I feel like there's a little bit of this energy right now of empathy that's entering for feminine in separation, that is almost like that point of someone saying, I'm sorry I didn't take consideration for how you might have felt about something. And also a lot of this energy right now that may be having some kind of like either, again, energetic breakthrough in that modality in terms of a new possibility that's going to help overcome an energetic problem. Or this is energy that is recognizing that they're moving away from something, that it doesn't have to do with the viability of the energetic connection, but it's just that the circumstances are such that they're not ideal for maintaining it, that is setting the new energetic standards going forward as you proceed. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, a lot of this energy that we're seeing right now coming into divine union, that effective energetic work, recognizing and identifying. This is either that moment, that feeling that frustration point, recognizing and identifying what those frustrations were, feeling and seeing those experiences wherein, again, if these were the modalities of experiencing like first argumentation or having those conflicts, but immediately being able to seek healthy restoration or resolution. This is the energy that feels like that pathwork of easement to a certain extent, because this is the energy that feels the release and relief on how easy it can be, even when things aren't moving in a way that feels like they are ideal. While for some of the energy right now, if these were modalities or experiences wherein we see and recognize that there's something here wherein we're seeing that there's some kind of change energy that's coming to the bear, this modality of recognizing something that you would have done differently. This is the energy that's taking accountability in that way to be able to articulate the difference between how one approached something versus how one would have desired to approach it, that's potentially allowing for that pathwork of energetic restoration. While for masculine and feminine energy that is deep within the divine union frequency right now, a lot of that work that we're seeing right now that is being navigated in relationality to those circumstances or experiences wherein, again, this is the energy that's finding that point of productivity. If this was masculine that was feeling that emotionality, was feeling like that emotionality that was overwhelming, but just allowing themselves to inhabit it, this is the masculine energy that's learning in some way, shape, or form to just integrate that pathwork, right? It's creating that variance point of recognizing that there's even something in that experience of feeling that feels like it's universal, right? Because that feeling of being frustrated, that feeling of not doing enough, that feeling that there's always something more to do. Well, I hate to break it to you, that's something we all share. That's the most universal thing on the planet. That's what binds us all together to a certain extent. While for feminine energy, that modality of feeling that uncertainty, feeling like you're not energetically ready. This is a lot of the feminine energy saying, nobody ever feels energetically ready. You kidding me? You don't wake up one day and go, I'm ready. You just like that day comes when you decide it to be. So we see even now that for a lot of the energy navigating in that way, it feels like the release and relief in doing so. Continuing to get clarification between our 8 of Swords in combination with our 5 of Swords. So this is like that energetic wall that we often hit with the retrograde. This 10-8-5 energy, this like sword wall. Can I please have one card to clarify? Clarification coming through right now. 3 of Swords in its upright. Masculine and feminine energy, navigating those energetic hurdles. A lot of that work that we're just seeing here within that frequency is one that's like, I got to point this out. If you're worried, it's because you care. If you're worried, it's because you care, right? So it can be, I told you, it's like it's working through those modalities that sometimes that care can feel like it creates that sense of of energetic caution. But we see even here that for a lot of the energy navigating that space, for masculine, this is like that heart opening exercise. This is almost feeling like how much your own heart can feel, feeling that expansive point, And for a lot of the masculine energy, there's a lot of contemplation about allowing oneself to feel that point of vulnerability that's helping you have a new perception as it relates to experiences from the past, particularly in this what can feel painful. If these were modalities wherein, again, you didn't feel the safety and security of being emotionally vulnerable, and now you do, like that ability of recognizing and identifying something in a different way, like it can be cathartic, but it can also be sometimes painful. While we see even now that for feminine energy, navigating, and that's the masculine, like this is the sense of the masculine, like learning the control it takes to let go of energetic control, right? Like it's that come what may kind of energy. While for feminine energy, a lot of that work that we're seeing right now has to do with recognizing and identifying the limitations of the self and not letting them prevent you from moving forward to a certain degree. Because for a lot of the feminine energy right now, that modality of doubting oneself, doubting one's own abilities, this is a lot of the feminine energy that if this was that moment or modality where you're always telling yourself, like, I'll be ready one day, this is the energy saying that day needs to be today. It always has to be today, right? Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union right now, this is either the ability of recognizing how easily one could navigate a conflict. And even here we see that there's still some catharsis that's happening. There's still some addressing of something here. There's still some nursing of wounds, right? But again, when we're in that space of empathy and we see one another and we recognize something, that empathy we can give to one another allows for those wounds to be nursed. But again, this could be some modalities right now where something got too volatile. If masculine was coming forward and subjecting another to their emotions, and feminine was becoming too energetically defensive and not seeing the vulnerability masculine was bringing forth, this could be a little bit of that work in restoration, because some of that heartache isn't something that feels like it's shared. It might be something that feels like it's isolating. Again, if you're feeling that, articulating through it, taking accountability is how you can heal. While for the energy right now in separation, this is bittersweet. This is bittersweet because we see even now that there may be something that is being brought forth in terms of, like, I want to say masculine, like this could be masculine recognizing and articulating upon something that, like, again, almost identifies and like recognizes, like there's a valuation point in terms of what the importance is. And so this could be a lot of the masculine energy that's articulating to feminine, like where that importance lies for them, like where that exists. And we see even now that some of that masculine putting something forth in a way, but also waiting to see how feminine receives it. Like that can feel a little bit, just like difficult. While for feminine energy right now, a lot of this work that we're potentially seeing, in separation, there's catharsis here, like especially if these are circumstances or situations wherein, again, you're moving away from something and there's a recognition point of what can be changed versus what cannot. Even here, like it's navigating that space of like heart, like feeling the heart, the any kind of energetic sadness, but it's that feeling of heart expansion instead of heartbreak, because there's no blame attached to it. Final card in today's spread between our Six of Wands in its reversal in combination with our Three of Swords in its upright. One card to clarify, please. Clarification coming through right now with our Page of Swords in its reversal. Now, masculine and feminine energy in separation, a lot of vulnerability that we see is effectively coming through right now in relationality to, I want to say, circumstances or situations. There's that sense, like there's so much of this compassion here that we're seeing that's occurring for so much of this energy and separation right now, specifically and particularly because we see that for so much of that energy and separation, the ability of recognizing, of trying to make something energetically easier. We see even now that that's either coming through in a way of energy making some kind of changes and being very vulnerable in the process, like almost offering some kind of ability to change and having to be very vulnerable in the process of articulating or communicating through it. Or this is energy that has come into that space of resolving of a point of energetic separation because of those energetic obstacles. But even here, seeing that sense of vulnerability as you come forward, because we see for some of that energy, like that observational point and feeling that sense of setting the energetic standards, but also accepting circumstances as they are. It can feel vulnerable even in the moment of it feeling empowering. While for masculine and feminine energy right now, that is coming into divine union, a lot of this work that we're seeing right now has to do with healthy conflict resolution. There's just a lot of energy right now coming into divine union that's articulating through what feels like healthy conflict versus what feels like it's not healthy conflict. I always want to point out the difference between a conflict and an argument. A conflict are two people that desire the same things, have different ways of going about it. An argument, two people that want very different things and are pulling in very different ways. So we see even now there's a little bit of that work that's being navigated, especially if these were spaces and places where someone became energetically overly reactive. This is either the energy within coming into divine union that's feeling the easement point that even when something's difficult, finding the solution to the energetic problem is easy. So even here, it feels like that sense of release and relief. Or this is energy that feels like they're navigating that conflict space. And having to have that observation no longer, it almost feels like the conflict's moved away from what the conflict was about, but how the reactivity of how someone navigated the conflict may have injured or hurt another. Like that's where we have to like manage, because some of these energies like right now are parsing through how that reactivity or how that defensiveness affected one another before they can even get to the heart of the problem. So making sure that you're articulating through that right now. Like a lot of that work is helping the energy like come into new ways to effectively navigate going forward. So even here, there's a possibility of breakthrough, but it's requiring a little vulnerability and taking accountability for one's own part in those circumstances and situations. While for energy deep within the divine union frequency right now, a lot of this work is the energy navigating through their own feelings of vulnerability. For masculine energy, it's that modality of trying to feel the emotional overwhelm and navigate it into productive spaces and places. Like masculine's trying to integrate it right now. They're trying to make it a part of themselves. And in that way, it's hard, because I told you a big lesson that's coming through for masculine right now is trying to control the ability of letting go of control. Like having that ability of just allowing yourself to inhabit that space. While for feminine, it's more of that modality that we're seeing right now in building the confidence of recognizing that you'll never feel confident enough if you wait to feel confident enough. Confidence is found in the doing, not in the waiting to feel confident enough to do. Bottom of the deck on this reading right now, Page of Cups. Masculine. Everybody needs a vacation is what I'm seeing here. Everybody needs a vacation. There's a little bit of this energy that we're seeing right now that just like, I mean, on the bright side, it's a Friday. So like, you know, like that sense of like, or that desire of wanting to move into that state or space of easement. It's almost like the amplification right now of just like wanting to have a little bit of that, like, you know, that's the thing right now for a lot of the energy within the divine union. I feel like the work is such that it feels like there's very little time to come into that state or space of like energetic enjoyment to a certain extent. And we see this even here, like this is the energy like within the divine union that feels like that list is like ongoing or ever moving. So we see even now that some of that energy navigating that space, especially, I almost feel like there's some energy that like, if this was energy that was going through emotional things, like even at a point of like easement, this is like the energy that feels like they need a break from even the emotional unpacking to a certain extent. Masculine and feminine energy coming into divine union. I feel like there's a little bit of this energy that I'm seeing coming into divine union right now that almost feels like some kind of expansion point. If these were energies that had not hit a point of conflict before, and are over and only now experiencing them, this is like I told you, it's a little bit of that like if this is the energy that like went through that with the point of easement, they're kind of like in that point of like laughing and being like, that's like, look, it was our first fight kind of thing. Whereas for some of the energy right now, this could be feeling more Like some of this energy, it's hard to navigate these spaces because again, I gotta stress, if something like this occurred, you can't really gloss over it. Like glossing over it or trying to put it behind you, like that doesn't, that, like I see even now, like a lot of energy is recognizing that the energy doesn't want to just kind of gloss over something and pretend something doesn't happen, because that in a way that almost articulates the allowance of that being something that is expected instead of something that needs to be more effectively navigated. While for masculine, and I even see even now, if there's energy that says let's just I don't want to talk about it, or I don't want to worry about it, like this could fall some energy into separation, because that ability of like someone feeling energetically hurt and someone dismissing it, like that ability of dismissing something when someone articulates that something is difficult, like that's the moment that often moves us out of alignment, because that's that moment of saying this is just something that you have to get used to, as opposed to saying this is something that isn't permissible going forward. While for masculine and feminine energy that's in separation right now, the easement point here has to do with the sake or the space of, again, if this is energy that is healing or recovering from a situation or circumstance where they feel like they found someone who is energetically ideal, but the circumstances were such that the obstruction points were too great. This is the energy that like their standards are such now that even for the energy coming towards them, it's like the quality versus quantity. It's like not so much interested in what feels like it's immediately available. It's more of that sense of really wanting to build that authentic connection in the process. While we see even here that for some of the energy right now that is moving towards one another, like with that different perspective, someone bringing something forward in a way that they haven't before, you know, a lot of it may have to do with someone having to take responsibility for some kind of naivete in the past, you know. And again, that ability of almost holding, like the same that we talked about within the divine union, holding accountability for something is how you navigate through it. Right? Because I see even now that for some of that energy and separation, if this is energy that's like not able to take account, like either not being able to overcome those hurdles, like that ability of ideally identifying and recognizing what they are, we see that that's almost like that state or space of like productivity, if you will, because this is the energy that like just wants to come into that place of like, I kind of get like this energy being like, can we just have like a fresh, like a little bit of that, like we have a fresh start kind of thing, because like so much of this here is like amplifying or articulating some kind of like need or desire to recognize and take accountability prior to being able to move forward effectively in some way. That is our daily collective read for the day. I want to thank you guys so much for being here and experiencing it. Just a reminder, if you would like to book a private reading with me, you can book one on my website, graystrega.com. My private readings are done over video, and if you are a subscriber to my TikTok, you can take 10% off any of my services when you pay. Just mention your subscriber name at the point of payment. Please keep in mind, if you book a private reading with me, it is a 2-step process. You have to book the reading and you have to pay for the reading. Please make sure you do both if you'd like to have that reading. Most importantly, please remember that I will never, ever, 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 ever reach out to you for a private reading. I will never DM you. I will never PM you. I will never slide into your inbox and tell you that I have a very important message that only I can deliver. The only way you can book a reading with me is if you book one on my website. So I encourage you to do it there. Also, a couple of updates before we move into personal readings today. The list is now open if you would like to get on the list. First and foremost, thank you to everybody who joined us at our Empress class last month. Our next tarot class will be held on Wednesday, August 14th at 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. Eastern. If you would like to become a part of that class program, head over to my Substack, graystrega.substack.com. Your paid subscription to my Substack will grant you access and entry into our live classes each month. You'll also have access to the course materials and recordings of all of our previous classes. So if you missed anything, you've got a whole week to catch up. You'll also have access to a one-on-one chat with me to ask any questions that you may have in relation to anything that we're learning. And if you become a founding member to my Substack, not only will you receive a discount on the full year's worth of classes, you will also receive a one-on-one mentorship, complimentary mentorship class with me, wherein we will assess where you are on your own personal tarot journey, and I'll give you the best insights in terms of how to utilize the classes and your pathwork to the best of your advantage going forward. One of the things I tried to do in these classes was make them accessible to the absolute novice tarot reader as well as the seasoned reader. There's definitely something there for everyone. So thank you if you're already joining us there, and I wish you the luck. I look forward to seeing you at our next class. Even if you don't become a paid subscriber to my Substack, I would encourage you to follow me over there to be able to stay up to date on any new events, any new course offerings. I post my Mystic Musings up there, which gives you an insight, an article about what we're seeing energetically week by week if you don't have time to listen to all of the daily collective reads. You'll also have access to our giveaways. Speaking of the giveaways, congratulations to the winner of our July giveaway. We've now posted that we are now in, if you'd like to see the winner, you can head over to my Substack. We're also now doing our August giveaway. So if you would like to get on the list to potentially win a free tarot reading with me, head over to my Substack. There's a 2-minute travel survey there. Filling out that travel survey will grant you access to the giveaway. But if you'd like to increase your chances of winning, forward that survey to a friend, because when I pull the winner, I'm giving away a free reading, not only to the person who wins, but also to the person who referred them. So thank you so much if you already entered, and I wish you the best of luck winning moving forward. Finally, I have a few new offerings on top of my standard life path readings for my clients. On top of that, if you'd like to purchase mentorship classes, I now offer mentorships. They can be purchased on an individual level or as a monthly class package for 45-minute readings, classes, 1 per week over the space of a month. These can be focused on whatever subject you are invested on exploring. I take a very limited number of students for this reason. Also, for my clients seeking more consistent weekly tarot support, I'm very happy to offer weekly tarot insight packages. There's a package of 4 30-minute readings, 1 per week over the span of a month, so that you can stay more consistent on following your own personal journey. I want to thank you guys so much for being here today and sharing in these messages, and we will do this again tomorrow.